So Southgate has now been England's 4th longest ever serving manager in terms of games played. He is behind only Walter Winterbottom, Alf Ramsey and Bobby Robson. So Southgate has been in charge for 74 games and some are now calling his time up as England manager. So I thought I'd crunch the numbers, have a look, see if that stacks up and see if Southgate should remain England's manager for the World Cup. So the way I thought I would do this is actually I would compare Southgate's record against our past 3 managers, not including Steve McClaren because he was only in charge for 18 matches. That means I'll be taking a quick look at Southgate's record alongside Sven's, Capello's and of course Hodgson's. So let's get straight into it. Here's a table showing all 3 managers. As you can see, they have all played the following games. So Southgate 74, Hodgson 56, Capello 42 and Sven 67. So if I look at then how many games they've won, drawn and lost, as well as goals scored and goals against, and this gives Southgate a 62% win percentage, Hodgson's on 58%, Capello on 66 and Sven on 59. So like I've said, Southgate has been in charge for more games than most, now more than Sven, who obviously at the time was a long-serving manager. So 62% I think is quite good considering the amount of games he's got. If I look then at competitive matches, Southgate's win percentage changes to 61% for competitive matches, Hodgson goes to 61, Capello goes up to 68 and Sven up to 67. England score the most amount of goals under Southgate, 2.1, the same as what they did under Capello, but do concede the least on an average of 0.6 goals per game, 0.7 for Hodgson, 0.8 for Capello and 0.9 for Sven. So Southgate's record pretty much looks in line with other managers really. So that is maybe one indication why people are calling for him to be sacked. Essentially, these managers did lose their job as England manager. They weren't winning enough games. But really, we need to look a little bit deeper. So why do people really want Southgate to lose his job? The biggest argument at the minute amongst England fans is that with this group of players we've got, this talent we have got, with players like Kane, Sterling, Foden, Mount, Grealish, Saka, I could go on, people feel that with those group of players, Southgate is playing too defensive. Indeed, usually he does play 2 holding midfielders, sometimes alongside a back 5, so there's a lot of attacking talent there. A lot of England fans believe Southgate isn't getting the best out of. So as a result, people often call Southgate too defensive or too negative in his approach. And that has been the biggest argument following England's semi-final defeat to Croatia at the World Cup and obviously the Euro 2020 final defeat to Italy on penalties. People believe Southgate is the reason why we did not go on to win those games, particularly because we were 1-0 up early in both games and we just failed, didn't we, to go on and get that second goal and seal the victory or even push for it really. I think the argument particularly stands up in the Italy game given the fact that it didn't seem for a lot of England fans that Southgate had learnt his lesson from the 2 years previous against Croatia, and it's become a big irritation for England fans. Despite Southgate actually getting us to the semi-finals and final, a lot of England fans believe that he is the reason why we did not go on and win those matches. Now I believe there is some justified reason in that. Like I said, particularly on the second game, we didn't seem to learn our lesson from that Croatia game. There is an argument to suggest that England could have been braver in both games to attempt to get the second goal because they did eventually just sit back and concede the equaliser. I do understand a little bit therefore why some England fans feel a little bit agitated. Another reason why England fans don't particularly like Southgate, or a section of them don't like Southgate, more to the point, is that for a lot of people amongst English fans he's known as the FA yes man. The FA, obviously the head of English football, are known for just really picking people who suit their agenda, who aren't going to cause them any bother, who are nice and polite, say yes sir, thank you, and just get on with the job. Nothing spectacular, and people believe Southgate fits within that category, almost like a little bit of a teacher's pet kind of way. People believe he was just in the right place at the right time, following obviously the dismissal of Allardyce, which was an absolute shambles, following the previous shambles of Iceland knocking us out at the Euros under Hodgson. So England were in a shocking place when Southgate became available. Initially he didn't even want the job, and for many Southgate was just basically the right place in the right time. No one else was around. Come off the back of a pretty unsuccessful stint at Middlesbrough, even though they were there for quite a long time, but a much better performance with the England under-21 team. But many people, given the fact that he has only managed Middlesbrough and the under-21s at international level, people feel that he's a little bit unqualified to have gained the England position in the first place. So all those things mean that even before he was appointed, Southgate wasn't a popular choice amongst England fans, followed by what some perceive as negative and overly defensive tactics in games, particularly with England's attacking talent available to them mean that for a big section of the England fan base, he isn't a popular manager. Then obviously more recently he's heaped an awful lot of pressure on himself, given the last 2 weeks in England's performance in the UEFA Nations League, losing home and away to Hungary and playing pretty poorly, it has to be said, against Germany and Italy in the games in between. One of those losses against Hungary, as we all know, is now the famous 4-0 home defeat, our worst home defeat in almost 100 years. It was a performance that mirrored the Iceland game, and we all know what happened to Hodgson following that. So Southgate has really piled the pressure on himself. As I've just discussed, some fans don't have a good bearing of him anyway, so it didn't take much for him to start receiving these calls for him to go. So as a result, amongst a lot of England fans, people are often saying now that Southgate is going to waste this new golden generation of talent, obviously after the recent golden generation of talent. People fear simply that Southgate is going to lead this team to the World Cup and that he's going to play a defensive approach, and we're not going to win the tournament solely because of him, not because of the availability in players in the squad we have available to us. However, for many other England fans, and I do mean any other England fans, this is all Southgate, without a doubt, has been England's best manager in over 50 years, since England won the World Cup with Alf Ramsey. Now, those figures that I showed at the beginning of the video don't actually reflect where Southgate sets himself apart from these other managers that have come previously before him, because within those win percentages, a lot of Southgate's wins have come in a lot more important games in big tournaments and have led to us reaching latter stages of tournament football. We obviously reached our first ever European final under Southgate at Euro 2020 for starters, only penalty kicks away from winning it, might I add. And although our last recent 4 games in the Nations League haven't been great, they came off the back of England's longest ever unbeaten run over 90 minutes in our history, and that followed on from England's record-breaking year in 2021 when England won 15 games in a calendar year, the most in our history, scored 52 goals within a calendar year, our most in our history, and kept 14 clean sheets, another calendar record for England. Furthermore, before Southgate came along, England had only won one knockout game in a European competition. That was against Spain at Euro 96. He trebled that record in the last Euros alone. Indeed, since 66, England had only ever won 6 knockout games in international football tournaments. That's 6 victories in over 50 years within international tournaments at knockout phases. Under Southgate alone, we have won 5 knockout games in 2 tournaments, the last 2. Under Southgate as well, England won their first ever penalty shootout at a World Cup, beating Colombia. He has also handed out over 50 international debuts to a whole range of players since he started. He also sent England through to the first ever semi-final of the inaugural UEFA Nations League, and he has comfortably qualified England for every single tournament we have participated in the qualifying rounds. That is something that did not used to happen. And on top of all that, Southgate now has England players that want to play for the national team again. Gone, long gone, are the club rivalries that dogged and ruined our last previous golden generation. He also has managed to gain the trust and the respect of the press, meaning that they're no longer berating England before the tournament even starts. So not only has he changed England on the pitch, he has completely changed England off it as well, and completely changed the culture that surrounds England international call-ups and duties for players and for press and for the fans. Not to mention that he's given us, since our victory in 66, almost all of our most memorable moments. So many good memories as an England fan that simply weren't arriving under the previous 3 managers. So should England go to the World Cup with Southgate as manager? Absolutely, 100%. He has earned his right to take England to that World Cup. He is the best manager for the job as of now. Nobody could come in and do a better job with the time frame they've got. I believe we have got our best chance under Gareth Southgate, and I believe he deserves respect for what he has achieved. Once he's gone, this generation will be looked back upon as a golden generation until we win something. I do not agree with the course for Southgate to go, and I think England fans need to look at themselves and think about where we came from when he took over as England manager. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. More importantly, let me know what you think below in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.